All right, welcome guys to Across the Great Iron. I'm Eddie, and coming to you live from the United Kingdom. Dallas Cowboy fan, all lover, and I wanted to talk about Dallas Cowboys. You might have seen my video, which I did a bit of a pep talk. It was just a way of me, sort of letting out, my emotions, around that Cowboys game against the 49ers. And it's a lot of range of emotions, with the Cowboys. And I think for us, United Kingdom, it's always difficult because, we look forward to the NFL, every Sunday. We look forward to a Dallas Cowboys game. I look forward to all the games, on a Sunday. And for me, that game was late. It was 1:20 in the morning when the game started. So to watch that game, all the way to the end, you're probably looking at going to bed around about 4 o'clock in the morning. And assuming everything goes smooth. So it's really, really late, and it really kind of shows our love and dedication, for the NFL. And so for me, it was a very late one. Next morning I still had to go to work. I work in IT, I do cybersecurity, and I have lots of responsibilities, in my work. But I just love, the sport. I love talking about it, which is why I started, this YouTube channel because, I wanted to be able to connect to as many, Cowboy fans as there are in the United Kingdom. And I know that there are lots of them. We don't really have a place, to huddle together and just talk Cowboys, right? You've got the time difference, in the United Kingdom, and so there are lots of good YouTubers out there. You've got the likes of Watch Lombardi, you've got Akoya Media, you've got Mac Holmes, and you've got Skywalker, Cowboys 1980. There are lots of good, cowboy YouTubers out there, and they're doing great stuff there. And I follow lots of them. I love their content. Support all of them as well. And I just want to try and see, as many Cowboy fans. I'm sure there are lots of Cowboys fans in the United Kingdom. So if you're a Cowboy fan, you can drop in the comment below. Just let us know. We can start to build something here, as well. The United Kingdom, is really, really growing when it comes to NFL football. I was at the Jacksonville Jaguars game, with the Falcons, and really, really great game, great atmosphere. We just turn up, we love the sport, and we show up in our jerseys. So you see all kinds of jerseys, ranging, from Bucks to the Patriots to the Dolphins, Texans, Bills. Bills are growing quite a bit following right here in the United Kingdom. They got their ass kicked, against Jacksonville Jaguars last Sunday. But really, I think when it comes to the UK, the Jacksonville Jaguars have really kind of owned this place. So, other teams that are coming here, beware. If you're playing the Jacksonville Jaguars, don't think it's the same team, that plays in the US. I'm gonna credit that to the beautiful tea that we have here, United Kingdom, and our fish and chips, helping them, stay on top of the game. But back to the Dallas Cowboys. How I tend to, get over some of these Cowboy losses is I try and stay away from the main media because the main media very good at manipulating the emotions of Cowboy fans, and you're gonna see all kinds of things, from Dak Prescott is trash to Mike McCarthy is useless, to Cowboys not to be taken seriously, and the truth is somewhere in between, right? Cowboys, we're not a bad team. We're not a terrible team. And we're not probably as great as we think we are. And that's always, the reality in the NFL. I think, every team, can relate to this. You're gonna have some games where you feel like you can beat pretty much anyone. And I think, right now, San Francisco 49ers and the Eagles will be feeling exactly that. And they are both doing it very differently. The Eagles kind of keep their games really, really close, but always make that play, that just takes them over the hump. And, 49ers, they don't necessarily blow out teams, and you could kind of say that might be the best way to pace for the rest of the season, where you win some games, you're dominating, you know that you're a good team, you're beating up the other team, but you're not going absolutely crazy. That might be also a way to prevent injuries, but really, these things can happen. For the Dallas Cowboys, it's really about feast and farming, right? We blow out a team, or we play down to the opposition, and we absolutely crumble. So my thoughts on the game, a few days removed. This is Wednesday now. We're already starting to look towards the Chargers. Is that we didn't play well. Dak Prescott didn't play well. Micah Parsons was talking about the fact that maybe the team wasn't put in a position in order to be successful. I mean, there's a lot that can be said about that. Tony Pollard, are we really seeing him as a running back one? Now that Zeke is in Patriots, do we really need someone that can actually go in and be that running back? And maybe that's also a frustration that I've always had with the Dallas Cowboys. And it's not just about this Mike McCarthy era. It was also with Jason Garrett, and it was also, even when Kellen Moore was the offensive coordinator. Sometimes we don't use guys. And sometimes it makes me just wonder, why is that the case? Why would your wide receiver, CD not be getting targets? I don't get it. Why would you have, Jake Ferguson, who had 7 for 7 in his last game, show up in this particular game, and he rarely gets a target. And then you have Schoonmaker, who I think he'll be a decent player, but I mean he's only just getting into the team. Why don't you follow the hot hand? It really frustrates me because the talent is there, but you feel like, it's almost like this analogy about a chef. The ingredients are there. Anyone can just go to the market, and buy ingredients off the shelf. And it's about how you put that together to actually bring a decent meal. And I think, for us Dallas Cowboy fans, at least from my perspective, that's what I'm really frustrated about. It feels like we are not getting the right kind of mix for the talent that we have. And it needs to be sorted. It really needs to be sorted, because we cannot just stagger all the way to the end of the season, like this. So that definitely needs to be fixed. We need to put the right players in the right spot, for us to win. And listen, everyone talks about Dak Prescott, how is this and that, but ultimately you need to put your team in a position to win. Look, I'm not a NFL, I'm not an American football expert by any means. I didn't grow up in the United States. I didn't play American football. So I don't necessarily understand all the tactics, but I have been following the NFL, now for so many years, and I think I really started becoming a fan of the NFL, 2008, 2009, I really started following passionately and following the Dallas Cowboys since then. And over time, as a fan, just looking at the game, you pick up, different things. Sometimes, I ask myself the question, my non-technical mind, ask myself, the question around, what's going on here? Why does it always seem like, San Francisco 49ers, that game really reminded me of the Rams game. And I think that was either 2018 or 2019 Rams game, where Sean McVay came out on that game, and there were lots of motions, and attacking us through the edges, in terms of the running backs, and we just couldn't stop it. It was time after time after time. I think it was Todd Gurley, that was the running back then. And the Cowboys fans that I've been following the Cowboys for a long time. You remember that game? We just couldn't stop a nosebleed. And it felt, even in the first couple of plays, this is how this game was going to be. And, if you're a good team and you find a weakness in another team, you just go on and press on it. There's no reason to change your game plan. I've heard from people who know, all these things a lot better about, the Niners changing the way that they defended, going from a zone, defense to a man to man, defense. The guys I understand is a lot better, can talk about that. And it just feels to me that there's an arrogance, when the Dallas Cowboys play. It's a little bit like, we will do what we want to do, and you just have to respond. But, I think that sports is always about adapting to your opponent. It's always about adapting in game. You know, I support Arsenal, football club, and we had a manager, Arsene Wenger. He was a great manager for us. During his reign, we went the whole season unbeaten. I think that's the equivalent of going to the NFL season, without losing a game, 7-0, that kind of thing. We went through the whole 38 games without losing a single game. And that's something that has never happened, and probably would never happen again, in that sort of context. I know the difference is that, in our football, you can win, you can lose, you can draw. I know that's also there in the NFL, but you rarely see tie games. There's usually wins or losses. And I was telling you about this story was because towards the end, of Arsene Wenger's reign, you could clearly see that, he had an identity how he wanted to play, and he wouldn't change that for anything. And that was commendable, but it also made us predictable. It also made, opponents to game plan, for Arsenal, every single time. And you could see the frustrations. We had a lot of the ball, we had all the possession, but we weren't scoring goals, so we weren't winning games. So ultimately, it was creating a lot of frustration, and it was really sad the way it ended. He had to leave the club, and then we went through a couple of managers, and now, we have Mikel Arteta, who's the our football team. But the reason why I painted that story is that, when you're a good team and you find an identity, there's a bit of arrogance that sometimes comes in, where you believe that you can do whatever you want and you will always be successful. And it doesn't mean that you have to keep changing, your identity, but there is something there to be said about being adaptable, being able to change, depending on how things are going in a particular game. And, I was waiting for these adjustments to happen. They never did, against the 49ers. It was a very, very painful night. Listen, it was a bad loss. We need to make some corrections. The next game is going to be nervy, so we go and play the Chargers. Kellen Moore will be looking at that game against the 49ers and probably thinking, here, I'm going to be able to exploit, this Cowboys defense. So I don't know what kind of emotions to take into that game. Do you take a posture of, I'm very upset, Dak Prescott was saying before 49ers game he was pissed off. Well, it didn't really show. And I don't want to criticize, Dak Prescott, in any shape or form. But everyone needs to take, some responsibility about that game. Nobody showed up. So listen, my thoughts, we played badly. We didn't have a running game. CeeDee Lamb's not being used. You got tight ends not being used as well. And you've got to get these points, any way you can, because you can't guarantee injuries. You don't know, who might be out down the stretch, and this might be important for just getting into the playoffs, so ultimately that needs to be, the aim. It's going to be difficult now because we're 2 games back from Philadelphia Eagles, so it's going to be difficult to actually, see that. So anyway, that was my thoughts. Drop your comments below, and we'll speak soon.